So if you create your own Black-owned business, but you're not hiring people who maybe went to a community college or didn't go to the elite institutions, you're just replicating the same systemic harms that you were allegedly trying to escape by creating your own. Hey y'all, Jay Nice on the mic. So today I wanted to make a video about FD Signifier's newest video, which is about Tyler Perry. For those of you who haven't watched, it's like a 4-hour video on Tyler Perry doing a very deep dive analysis. FD Signifier is great for these like deep dive analyses. I remember when it was like a month after I had given birth and I was just pumping around the clock. That's when the Kendrick and Drake beef had started. It was over the summer of 2024, and FD Signifier put out some long, it probably was like 2 or 3 hours, and it got me through so many pumping sessions. So anytime FD puts out a video, I've watched it, and he has really great analyses. But I wanted to make a video on one of the things he said in the video, which I think is important for us to talk about. Right throughout the whole documentary, FD Signifier was talking about, like, there was a visual of a table being built, and I guess what the table was supposed to symbolize was like the table that Tyler Perry said he was building. Tyler Perry was on some award show and said he was getting some sort of visionary award, and he was saying he's building his own table versus waiting for people to give him a seat at the table. And it reminded me of, I don't think FD mentioned this in his video, but it reminds me of the infamous Audre Lorde quote about the master's tools. And I think that this happens more often than not, where Black people create our own tables, but we replicate the same harmful structures that we were trying to escape by building our own tables. I see this a lot happening. I've written about this before. I wrote an article about anti-blackness in the DEI space. And I think it's important to talk about, right? Especially like, how does this show up in Black businesses? I think first of all, it shows up as respectability, which is this idea that Black people, in order to be respected, have to dress a certain way, have to talk a certain way, have to go to a certain type of school in order to be respected. One of the ways that respectability shows up is how I used to wear my hair. I used to feel like professional hair looked a certain way, and I felt like I couldn't wear my 4C hair out, and that I always had to manipulate it. This shows up also for me because I think a lot of us who've had a lot of schooling, I have a PhD, and I think a lot of people who have had multiple degrees sometimes have an air of elitism, and some of us feel like we're better than others who maybe didn't attend college or who didn't go to certain schools. And so it can show up in that way. So if you create your own Black-owned business, but you're not hiring people who maybe went to a community college or didn't go to the elite institutions, you're just replicating the same systemic harms that you were allegedly trying to escape by creating your own. I think we have to admit that for a lot of Black people, we're not trying to be free. We just want, and I'm not the person who said this, so I think hats off to whoever said this, but we just want our hand at oppression as well. I think the Black capitalism thing, we know, is not going to save us, but so many of us, and I say this as a business owner myself, where so many of us just are repeating and replicating the same harmful systems that we saw or we came out of. I remember hearing about a consultant who was in the equity space who was not adequately compensating her employees. And I thought, how ironic is this, that as a consultant who does work around workplace equity, this person was sourcing employees from underdeveloped countries and paying them pennies because it was cheaper, not hiring people from here in the US, and also the people in the US that this person was paying, they were underpaying them, right? And that's just a classic example. But this can also show up as our idea of professionalism. And my girl, who is an attorney, Leah Goodridge, she wrote this really great article for the UCLA Law Review years back called Professionalism as a Racial Construct. And she talked about how this idea of professionalism is used against people of the global majority, right? How we wear our hair, how we have our nails, how we look. And that idea of white professionalism is weaponized against us. And so when we ask ourselves, how does anti-blackness show up within Black spaces? Respectability is one of the ways. And then I think that's directly tied with this idea of professionalism, where we think Black people are only acceptable when they come in this specific package, right? And I also think that customer service is a big one, where there is a lot of conversations about how, and debate online constantly about whether Black-owned businesses, and I know you can't broad brush every business, and this is not an indictment of Black-owned businesses. I'm a avid, ardent supporter of Black-owned businesses, but whether you get the same level of customer service with Black-owned businesses. I think that subconsciously, because like Audre Lorde said, we all have a piece of the oppressor that's buried deep within us. I do think that subconsciously we probably mistreat Black customers. If you're a Black business owner and you sell products, I think it's a subconscious thing. I also think as customers, we underestimate Black businesses. We don't give Black businesses enough credit, especially Black women founded businesses. We've seen all of these stories of so many beloved Black woman founded brands that are closing. And I think we stop and ask ourselves, why is this happening? I love this brand, but it's because of these internalized oppression and anti-Blackness that we hold deep, deep, deep within us that we have not reckoned with. And it shows up in how we treat the business owners. And it also shows up in some cases, how the business owners treat their Black customers. So I do think that there needs to be a lot more discussions about that. We need to heal, and we need to reckon with the ways that we've internalized oppression. And we need to, I think the first step is recognizing how we're internalizing harmful stereotypes, harmful narratives, harmful beliefs about our own communities, and then we need to break the cycle. And that first recognition piece is so important, because many of us are probably holding on to these beliefs and these internalized oppressive beliefs, and we don't even realize it. I think there's two pieces of, I don't want to say advice, but there's two things that I can offer around this conversation of anti-Blackness in Black spaces and what it will take for us to disrupt anti-Blackness within Black spaces. And the first is we have to ask ourselves, especially if you are a Black business owner or you have a Black specific space, is you have to think about what accountability systems look like within your space. What systems do you have to prevent harm, to address the harm when it inevitably takes place, and to repair and rectify the harm? And then secondly, what are you doing as a founder or a owner of a Black business to constantly learn and grow and evolve your understanding? There can be no ceiling on the amount of growth and evolution that we go through. And so we should constantly be putting ourselves in a position to learn, grow, and evolve more. So I think when it comes to Black owned businesses, we have to be considering accountability systems and what we're doing to continuously stretch and grow ourselves. But I just wanted to give really quickly my 2 cents. I think the video is so excellent. You should check it out. I'll link it in the description below. When I stopped watching, I watched it over the course of a few days. When I finished watching it, I know it had maybe 1.1 million views. Hopefully it blows up. It gets to like 2, 3, 4 million views, because it is a really well done, well made piece of content. So y'all check that out. Let me know what you think, and I will see y'all in the next video.